Man, it happened again. I got the question again. No, it wasn't the question. I'm sorry, it was a statement. I got the statement again, and it's the one that used to drive me nuts, and now I just roll my eyes. Some guy, I've got this video about why I don't think the AK-47 or the 7.62x39 is the right choice for preppers and militiamen and patriots and whatnot. It's a fine round for everything else. I just don't think it's good for that. And that drives guys crazy. I mean, it just. And one of the things they'll say from time to time is, how can you say that? The AK-47 or the 7.62x39 has killed more people than anything else in the history of the world. And they'll talk about all the deaths that the AK-47 and the 7.62x39mm have caused. And it used to drive me nuts, and then I thought it was funny, and now I just roll my eyes. So what I was supposed to be doing is getting this log back up on this saw that fell off the other day. I was trying to flip it, and sawing this log up to get some lumber for some shelves in the house. Instead, what I did was I went and did a little bit of quick research to see if I could find out anything about this. How many people has the AK-47 killed? Is it, had got the highest kill count of any weapon in history? And the answer is a resounding no, not even close. Now, it's difficult to throw out hard numbers here, but here's some quick facts. We'll call them factoids even if you want, for you guys who don't like this. The AK-47 wasn't fielded in any significant numbers until 1956. So it completely missed the Korean War. Now, if we were talking about the 7.62x39 round, we could probably include the Korean War because the SKS got used in that, it's at least some, I think, by the Chinese troops. But the AK-47 didn't get fielded in any kind of numbers until 1956. So it completely missed the Korean War. It made the Vietnam War. And then in 1974, the AK-47 was replaced in the Soviet Union by the AK-74. So it had a service life, an effective service life. Now, like I said, it got adopted, I think, in 49 or 50 or 48 or 49. But it didn't really get fielded that much. There were problems with the manufacturing, with the receivers. They couldn't stamp it right. So they had to do a milled receiver until they got their stamping technology up where they could match the original German design. And so they just couldn't get enough of them out until 1956. Now the Chinese, that's the Soviets. The Soviets jumped it in 1974 and switched over to the AK-74. Now you can make the argument that it's the same rifle in a different caliber. I think no, I don't think you can, because the AK-47 is a specific weapon. It is that AKM, those couple of models like Type 1, Type 2, Type 3, that were designed by the Soviets, adopted by the Chinese, used all throughout the Warsaw Pact. That was used in a lot of places. It was used throughout the Middle East, mostly because the Soviets were just giving them away. Not because they're not as easy to make as everyone pretends. That's why the Soviets had a hard time getting up and running with them back in the 40s and early 50s. But once you're set up to make them, then yeah, they're easy to make after that. But it can be hard to get set up to make them. So they were all over the place. But I started looking at the fight. Oh, and the Chinese. Okay, so the Chinese used them from. I forget what year they adopted them. But the Chinese got rid of it in 1998. So the Chinese don't use the AK-47 anymore. So the Soviets got rid of it in 74, the Chinese got rid of it in 98, and so you've got a ton of these tiny little countries who use it. Eastern Europe, the Middle East, the Far East. There's all these places that use variants of the AK-47. But you start looking at the wars that the weapon was in, and it's the Vietnam War, and then it's like the Congolese insurgency, the Dominican Republic. 4th of July incident. I mean, it's in all these tiny little fights. But here's the thing about these tiny little fights, and I have some experience, a little bit of tangential experience with one of these tiny little fights. The vast majority of these little fights, more people get killed by machetes than get killed by rifle fire. More people get killed by 9mm. When I was in Haiti, 1990, it would have been 96, I think. I can't remember. Operation Fairwinds, tail end of it. We found out later all we were doing was making the Clintons money, but at the time we thought we were doing something. And they took us to this, we were replacing an Army unit. We were protecting Camp Kinser and Camp Fairwinds, and we were replacing an Army unit. And so for like the first week, the Army unit showed us everything, and they took us to this sugarcane field, just littered, absolutely littered with skeletons all over the place. They were set up in voodoo altars, like bones put in the shapes of weird stuff. There were hundreds, if not thousands. I didn't walk through the whole sugarcane, but there were definitely hundreds. And every single one of them had a 9mm bullet hole in the front of the head. And if you've ever seen a 9mm bullet hole in the skull, you'll never forget it. But there was a 9mm hole in the front and a big exit wound in the back. Sometimes it was reversed, front, back, back, front. But that Haitian, whatever it was going on for so long, more people were executed with 9mm than got involved in any kind of rifle firefight. So here is my, okay, so now we can say that the AK-47 never got in any kind of big fight after Vietnam. It was not the only weapon the Viet Cong used in Vietnam. They used all kinds of stuff, including old French rifles, SKSs. It was by no means, it might not even have been the most prevalent rifle. It could have been, I shouldn't say that, but it's possible it wasn't even, it could have been, it might not even been 50% of the rifles the Viet Cong had. I don't know that for sure, I shouldn't have said that. But compare that to the Kar-98. That was the German bolt-action rifle. It was adopted in 1898, and it served all the way up through World War II. I don't remember exactly when the Russians replaced it. Germans. But it served in World War I and World War II. On the Western Front, on the Eastern Front, I mean, it saw massive combat in 2 world wars. It also got some colonial use, but I know the Turks used it. Well, I should say the Ottomans. I don't know how long they used it. They could have been Turks when they were still using it, to be honest with you. I don't remember. I didn't really look into the Turkish connection on it. But the Turks used that thing, and I don't really remember anybody else. But that's enough. I would imagine. Oh, yeah, like the Swedes used it. Switzerland, maybe. A bunch of those places up through there used the Kar-98. Don't quote me on all those countries, because I didn't do all the research. Because I don't have to, because the Kar-98. It served in World War I and World War II, and the Germans and the Turks used it too. You know what? I think the Boers used it in one of the Boer Wars. Yeah, I think they did. It saw lots of combat. Lots of people got killed with the Kar-98. But that doesn't compare to the British 303, the Lee Enfield. That was used in World War I. That was used in World War II. The Indians used it. The Australians used it. The New Zealanders used it. South Africans used it. It was in tons of colonial fights. It was on both sides of a bunch of different colonial fights. It fought through the Pacific with the Australians, Burma, World War I and World War II. I don't know. It's hard to say what happened in the Chinese Revolution. I don't think there was any one predominant rifle. If there had been one predominant rifle, it's possible that whatever that was in the Chinese Revolution would have the highest kill count of any rifle in history. But I don't think there was. They were using a hodgepodge of stuff. And that leaves us with the highest kill count in history on the Lee Enfield in British 303. There's nothing else that can touch it. I would be willing to listen to somebody who's wanted to talk about 30-06. The Americans saw very little combat in World War I, but we did see some. And then, of course, we were fighting the Japanese in the Pacific and in Europe. So we got a double dose in World War II, but I don't think there's any way that 30-06, I'm not sure that there's not any way. I doubt that 30-06, oh no, well that wouldn't have worked anyway because it was spread across 2 guns. It was the 1903 and the M1 Garand. So that wouldn't have worked anyway. If we were talking bullet, maybe 30-06 has a shot, but nothing. So look, in my personal opinion now, I say my personal opinion is it probably doesn't have as high, the AK-47 doesn't have as high of a kill count as the M1 Garand, because it just hasn't been any big fights. But I would be willing to debate that. I don't think there's any way, AK-47, I don't think there's any way it matches the Kar-98, the German bolt action. The Kar-98, oh now I'm questioning myself. You know what I'm talking about. Gewehr 98, Kar-98, maybe the carbine or something. The Mauser 98, you know what I'm talking about, an 8mm. Neither one of them touched the British 303, the British Lee Enfield which has fought all over the world in some major conflicts. If you AK-47 guys think your rifle has a high kill count, I question your grasp of the history. You know, the AK-47 is a historically significant, interesting, I would even say groundbreaking rifle, even though it didn't actually do anything new. But in its adoption, it changed infantry weapons forever. You know, we never went back. Now, it ended up being a dead end, in my opinion. And I think the Soviets proved that when they switched to the AK-74. And the Chinese reinforced that when they switched to whatever that thing was they switched to, 5.8 or whatever. I don't remember what it was. Type something. So if you want to talk about your rifle's kill count, it's okay to be a fanboy. There's nothing wrong with being a fanboy. I'm a fanboy for several things: Ford trucks, Coca-Cola, Julio Franco, Braves baseball, and you name it. I'm all kinds of fanboys. But if you're going to be a fanboy, you got to be honest. Your AK-47 is historically interesting. I should say mechanically interesting, historically significant. And I would love to own a bunch of them. I would collect them if I could. But they're not a tactical rifle, and they haven't been for years. And this idea of the kill count is one more myth surrounding the AK-47. Man, I hope I anger a bunch of AK-47 fanboys. I actually don't hate the rifle at all. I just don't think it's a tactical choice. It's not the first choice for preppers. It's not your first choice for self-defense, militia, patriot, whatever it is. It's here we go. Get ready. It's obsolete. All right, have at me, man. We appreciate you. Thank you.